12 hours. Are you there with me? Yes, children. Okay. Feeling sleepy, anyone? This time is 4 o'clock, isn't it? Uh, Anyone feeling sleepy? No, the other day, yesterday, I told you that you bring your world book also, so that I'll just tell you the page number and the pictures, which can be very. No, ma'am, not feeling sleepy. Okay, you are active that much. That is very good. Yes. Do you have the book? Please be a little faster. Be a little faster. Be a little faster, dear. Clear. You are having the book with you in front of you. You are having the book in front of you. The world politics. Okay, thank you very much. So the first page, you come from the first chapter. Come from the first chapter. The Cold War era. Cold War era, you page number 5, there is a picture. Page number 5, the member countries of NATO. You see there is a picture, there is a map. Please do tick over it. Then you go to the next page, page number 6, there is again a map like thing. Please tick it. Then you go to the next chapter, dear. End of bipolarity. So here in this chapter, end of bipolarity, I suppose on page number 24, there is a map showing the areas of USSR. So you can have this, you can follow this. Clear? US hegemony chapter you are not having. This was a very important chapter. I don't know why this has been excluded from your syllabus. I don't understand the reason. Now we will come to that particular part, alternative centers of power, page 53, European Union. That means the map represents all those countries who are the members of the European Union. Please do tick that part. Then again on page number 55, there's again one picture there. Then you come to the flag of ASEAN flag. Then over the flag you have the map, the countries which are the members of ASEAN. Then on page number 57 you see there is a picture of Manmohan Singh, a cartoon is there. On page number 57, East Asian nations, you see this picture, the cartoon picture, please that one. Then again on page number 55 you have the wall of China. That one is an important one. Then again on page number 60 you see there is one bicycle representing the Chinese economy. You see the first wheel, it shows communism, because China is also, this is communism, and the another one is socialism. China is actually a thoroughly socialist country, and you see it's written there, it's written China. Clear? Then you go to the next chapter, contemporary South Asia. Here on page number 72, you see there is a picture below the lower half of this page, where you are getting the picture of some kinds of revolution. These kinds of pictures are given, and at times I'm telling you, please be very careful. Please tick them. The picture showing the ethnic revolution taking place in Sri Lanka. Then you come to the 6th chapter, UNO and it's an international organization. On the very first page of the chapter, which is actually page number 70, you see you have the emblem of UNO. This emblem comes, and if the picture of the emblem is given, and certain questions can be put from there. Then you go to the next question. This question this particular picture I have told you when I was talking to you about the international organization and about the terrorist groups, the Hezbollahs. Here on the lower part of the picture, page 82. These two pictures are very important. Then there is a picture on page number 92. A poor woman with a child. Please take that picture. Then you come to page number 95. There you see on the right hand side column, one side you see on one hand it is the emblem of UNO, and the other hand you find that war is taking place. This picture. Then security in the contemporary world, this part you are not having, you are having only the part on terrorism. Only the part on terrorism is there. Environmental concerns, this chapter is not there, no? Now we will move to that chapter, globalization. That is the last chapter from this book. Here on page number 142, you are having one picture below. Right hand side also columns, you are having some pictures of globalization. Even on page number 141, you are having right hand side column, some pictures depicting globalization. So these are the pictures which you are going to, you should go through while we are doing picture writing. Now, I will come to your book, the next book which you are having, that is chapter 5. You see the name of the chapter according to your book is Challenges to the Restoration of the Congress System. Up till chapter 4 we have already done, isn't it? Yes or no? Do you remember or not? India's external relations or foreign relations, what you have, India's foreign policy, yes. We are starting from chapter 5 once again. And here you see, I don't know how many of you have got that PDF which I have told you that which has been put on the official website of the school. And there is a name of the chapter, The chapter in your book, it is given in this form, Challenges to and Restoration of the Congress System. Here, in your reduced or revised syllabus due to the pandemic, the name of the chapter has also been changed. The name of the chapter has been given like Democratic Resurgence. That means how democracy was established, re-established, I will tell, not established, because it was established immediately after independence. So, resurgence means re-establishment. And here we will mainly see the role of Jayaprakash Narayan. But, as what I feel is that Jayaprakash Narayan or Ram Manohar Lohia, if you go only these parts, I don't think that the chapter will be completed. So what I will do is that, what I have thought is that, and I have seen the sample papers, questions have been framed from parts apart from Jayaprakash Narayan also. So in this sense, what I will ask you to do is that we will go through the whole chapter, because you never know from which part the questions are going to come. So challenges to and restoration of the Congress system. So in this chapter you will find that immediately after independence in India, do you remember who became the first Prime Minister of India? Do you remember who became the Prime Minister of India? That is from 1952 onwards. Who became the first Prime Minister of India? Yes, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. This is a very childish question. I felt like asking you a bit of childish questions. Yes. Now what happened, in the year 1964, just pay attention, it is like a story. I think that you will find it interesting because it is all about India. And next year many of you will become the citizens of India. Legal citizens, not natural citizens. You are now natural citizens. Later you will become legal citizens and you should know about your country. So it is not a part of your curriculum, it is also a part of your duties as a citizen of a country. So what we'll see is that, when Jawaharlal Nehru, he became the Prime Minister and he continued until in the year 1964, Jawaharlal Nehru was not keeping well for the last 1 year, and unfortunately in the year 1964, it was in the month of May, Jawaharlal Nehru had passed away. Clear? So when Jawaharlal Nehru passed away, this was one of the biggest challenges which had come to India after independence. That means, first of all, the first challenge was what? That establishment of democracy through elections. That was over. We have already discussed that the election process started in November 1951 and it got completed by February 1952. And the first democratic government was established in the year 1952 itself, and under the Prime Ministership of Jawaharlal Nehru. So everything was going fine. But unfortunately, Jawaharlal Nehru was not keeping well, and it was in the year 1964, Jawaharlal Nehru passed away in the month of May. Now the question came, now was the challenge. Now you see the name of the challenge, name of the chapter is also challenges. So the first challenge was that if Jawaharlal Nehru is no more with us, he has passed away, so who is going to become the next Prime Minister of India? This was one. Why? Because Jawaharlal Nehru, as we all know, that he was a very sharp diplomat. So it was possible for him to continue for a long term. I suppose it was at a succession more than two terms. 2 terms. He had completed 2 terms and it was his 3rd term which he had started. Unfortunately, he could not complete it. Clear? So what happened, there was one question, and another question was that, one problem, one very important question which came was that after Jawaharlal Nehru, whoever comes up as the next Prime Minister. So the first question was what? That who will become the next Prime Minister? And the second problem was what? That if that Prime Minister is elected, will that Prime Minister be able to maintain the democratic nature of India? This was the second question. And because for a country like India, where most of the people were poverty stricken and people were illiterate, so you will find that particular decade means the entire 1960s, that is from 1960 till 1969. This is known to be one of the most dangerous decades. Decades means a span of 10 years. This has been declared to be one of the most dangerous phases in the political history of India. I have given you this particular point as a statement which you have to remember forever. That since the establishment of democracy till date, one of the most horrible phases or dangerous phase for Indian political system was the decade of the 1960s, because Jawaharlal Nehru has passed away, and there was the problem that who is going to become the next Prime Minister, and if the next one who is going to become the next Prime Minister will it be a thoroughly democratic system? Because we all know that, in order to establish democracy, what do you need? I want this answer. In order to establish democracy, I have told you, even when I was teaching you class 11 part, what are the most important, what is the hallmark of a democracy? I have used this term. What is the hallmark of a democracy? Just tell me. Very, very good. And the answer is given by, the name is so blurred, Alka. Yes, very, very good. Very, very good. Everyone. So, you know, without elections, I have told you democracy, the elections are the hallmark of a democracy. And without elections, you cannot imagine of a democracy. Why? Because it is in the election, we can express that the sovereign power is in the hands by casting our vote and expressing our choice and forming the government. So, you know, all over the country, this became a very, very important matter. Why? Because especially for a country, once elections had taken place, 51, 52, it's okay. Now again, there was a challenge for democracy, especially in a country to conduct elections once again for a country which is mainly people who are very poor, poverty-stricken people, and together with that, people who are very, very illiterate. So again, to exercise or experiment with elections was the second major challenge of India or Indian democracy. I'll continue after this tomorrow. Clear? So I have already started with the politics in India since independence, 5th chapter. Okay, thank you. Tomorrow we'll meet again.